Now, we've certainly got people talking this morning with the topics we've been covering. Sulky racing first, then we had John Cummins, and then the illegal dumping. We're also going to be talking in a minute to Michelle O'Neill, interview I did with the Deputy Leader of Sinn Fein. She was in on Saturday. Firstly, some of your texts and comments. Damien, sulky racing needs to be banned once and for all. I can tell you firsthand how terrifying it was yesterday. It was literally a life or death situation. It's an absolute disgrace that they're allowed on the road with no rules or regulations. Damien, I'm so upset listening to the programme this morning. The poor horse. These people should be banned from owning an animal. They treat their dogs just as cruelly, and it is disgraceful. Other people have been on saying we can't tar everybody with the same brush. I agree with you on that. Other people are saying that the problem is with enforcement, is identifying the owner. A law making it compulsory to microchip dogs and horses was brought in on the 1st of April 2015, but there's no consequences for not microchipping them, and nobody has the power to do anything about it. My feeling on this is that laws are only as good as they are implemented. There's no point making a law if you can't enforce it, or if you don't enforce it. I've spoken to some guards about this before as well, and there are difficulties obviously in terms of enforcement. But very simply, if you had a horse that is supposed to be microchipped and it wasn't microchipped, I believe that it is incumbent for the authorities, and it's within their powers, to take the horse away. Because if the horse isn't microchipped, then technically nobody owns it. So you can take the horse away, and that's it. Simple as that. And let somebody take a court case to try and get the horse back if they want to. Damien, regarding illegal dumping, I was visiting Tramore. I was appalled by the dog poo on the streets. I had guests with me. I was embarrassed I brought them out. I've spoken to locals and they've said it's continuous. The council do some cleaning, but they need to do more to clean up the streets. People out there should be ashamed they're not cleaning up after their dogs. Damien, I'm in a corporation house and Age Action cleaned the front and back gutters for me. I rang the corporation and asked would they come and collect the bags. I didn't get a response, so I had to pay €35 to collect the lot. I think there should be something done more in council areas. Damien, mud throwing through the election by all parties. Damien, can you get a Garda or an environmental welfare person on, please, to talk about the horses and all the work that's been done? Good things with horses, but all the issues that need to be done regarding sulkies. Damien, I called a Garda about a horse in a sulky on the narrow road in the Estuary Heights. The Garda said nothing could be done. How is this allowed? Damien, surely that man that ran away from the sulky needs to be identified. Plenty of dash cams in vehicles nowadays. He was surely caught on several last Saturday. My understanding is that they have a picture of the man. It's a case of identifying him, but as we heard, the owners of those vehicles, I'm going to find it very hard to get a payment out of that. I don't know how it's going to work out. Damien, the city council, the manager, everybody involved in the council, they're responsible for running the city. They need to get the finger out and sort out these issues. I've had a text in from Jim Griffin as well, Sinn Fein councillor, saying that he has raised this, and as we heard from John Cummins, they have raised it continuously, and there was a motion passed within the council to try and get sulky racing banned. Neither the council or the government or the Gardaí are prepared to tackle this, says one texter here, and it needs to be done. Also, Pave Point have taken legal challenges to defend what is being done in terms of sulky racing as part of the minority culture. So let us know what you think about that. Text us 083 333 975, or you can call Laura on 051 846 123. We're also going to be talking about vasectomies in a little while, the snip. Firstly, Michelle O'Neill, Deputy Leader of Sinn Fein, was in. I asked her first about Mary Lou MacDonald not coming to the Waterford constituency. David Cunnellan was in the studio as well, and they were down for a rally on Saturday. So here's my interview with Michelle O'Neill. Mary Lou MacDonald, the party leader, is not coming. I presume she's busy at other things, so you're dividing it up. Is that it?
Absolutely. Sure, we have to be everywhere. We're trying to support all of our candidates and be right across the country. So, and this morning I was with Kathleen Function, and then obviously over with David. Then I'm going up to Dublin. I'll be in Wexford, Wicklow, everywhere. We're just going to get around the country as best we can. How
deeply do you know the 110-page manifesto? There obviously would be some minutiae of it that maybe wouldn't be fully au fait with.
Well, I'm over all the broad politics obviously of it, because I suppose for myself of recent we've been very much involved in getting the local assembly up and running again in the north, so my efforts have been very much focused on that. We're just 3 weeks in now to re-establish power sharing, which is really significant and important, so I've been very much focused on that. But clearly the politics of this election, I mean, of course that I'm involved in all of that as somebody who's the Vice President of the party.
I know David's here in studio. We're not talking to him this morning. He may have mentioned to you that Mary Butler, the local TD in Waterford for Fianna Fáil, had raised the issue, saying that she believed that unelected people were still influencing Sinn Fein. What have you got to say to that? Because that's been brought up by Brendan Howlin as well, the Labour Party leader.
Well, I mean, I just think it's tactics on behalf of the opposition to try to distract the message. I mean, Sinn Féin have an hard core. I would actually argue that we're probably the most democratic and open party that compared to any other party in terms of how we operate. So I'm a member of the Ard Comhairle for many years. I got myself elected from the membership from maybe when I was in my early 20s. So I know how the party operates. The Ard Comhairle takes the decisions. Like that's politics. That's democracy. That's how party politics works. So I think that our opponents are just opportunistic about it. I'm fairly relaxed that it actually... It's not what people are saying to us in the doors, put it like that.
So is it true?
Absolutely not. The Ard Comhairle is the Ard Comhairle. That is the decision maker of the party.
Have you ever had any IRA member, past or previous, try to influence you?
I actually think it's even daft that I'm even being asked that question. It's absolutely nonsense. I'm elected by the party membership into the role of Vice President. Mary Lou is the President. We take decisions along with the Ard Comhairle. I mean, that's just party politics. One
of the issues, again, we won't go through the entire manifesto because I'm not going to try and catch you out or anything like that. One of the issues, and I had a read of it over the last 24 hours, there's no mention whatsoever of the Special Criminal Court. Okay? So this is an issue that transcends just the manifesto and I suppose local politics, because it's very, very important about how the party has changed the last few years to try to make yourselves more beautiful for other parties.
I would argue that we're very beautiful.
Why has your policy on the Special Criminal Court changed?
Well, I think we've been very consistent, and David himself has been very consistent, and actually on a programme recently was very clear around our position that we would want to see reform of the Special Criminal Court. But clearly what David has said on record...
Clearly on record, on the other night, on prime time, he said he'd no problem with the Special Criminal Court. That's exactly what he said.
He did.
Okay, now there's a big difference between saying no problem and saying I want to review, or going back here, and I have from 2016... the last manifesto before this election, Sinn Féin wants to scrap the Special Criminal Court. I have your Ardèche Clár here from 2019. I went through 2017, 2018. I don't see where it was decided at the Ardèche to change the policy on the Special Criminal Court. When was it decided?
So what David clearly said the other night was that he was reacting to what's happening where a child was actually cut to pieces. Mm-hmm. So I think he was reacting to the fact that these people responsible for those types of violent crime need to be taken and dealt with very severely and immediately. And I think what David expressed the other night was right. He was saying that this needs to be dealt with. But he also did say that there needs to be reform of the Special Criminal Court.
When did the policy change on the Special Criminal Court?
Our policy has been consistent.
It hasn't.
We do
hasn't.
believe.
So what about this document?
I do believe it is consistent because we have said very clearly that we need to make sure that these people are dealt with properly before the law. We're very clear about that, very upfront about that, no holds barred about that. I think that clearly Sinn Féin for many, many years and for many and correct reasons have had issues with Special Criminal Court. We do believe there is reform that's necessary, and David was very clear in putting that on the record.
OK, let's put it on the record then. 2016, Sinn Féin pledged to abolish a Special Criminal Court if in government after the election and replace it with the normal rule of law. Then we go to 2018, May the 24th, where Sinn Féin TD Agus O'Snoddig made scathing remarks about judges in the non-jury Special Criminal Court. The court was set up to end the intimidation of juries in cases involving the IRA and other paramilitary criminals, a dull debate. He dubbed... I could go on. Again, I'll ask you the question. Did David Cullinan go out on a solo run last week by saying what he had to say?
No, he did not. David was just
so is it party policy?
David was being very articulate and putting across the fact that children are dying on our streets, that these people, criminal gangs, need to be dealt with in the best possible form.
By courts?
But by courts.
And that includes the Special Criminal Court?
By courts. And what David said very clearly on the record was that these people need to be dealt with. He also went on to say that we needed to see reform. And that is our view, that there needs to be reform. I mean, you look at our experience of these types of diplock courts where you have non-juries sitting taking decisions. There's not been a very good experience for Republicans down through the years or for in society as a whole. So
there hasn't. And a lot of people, Sinn Féin core voters, agree with what exactly you're saying.
Yes.
So what I'm asking is, have you changed policy on a whim without going through the Ardèche?
We don't change policy on a whim. I think what David was saying was that how we would need to react to what is a very difficult and dangerous situation, particularly in Louth. Those instances that we've seen there in the last couple of weeks have been so scary, and people are really, really alarmed and very, very worried. These people need to be dealt with. We do want to see reform of the Special Criminal Courts. We're very consistent in saying that. I mean, I think that what David was doing was reflecting what needs to be done in terms of dealing with those people.
So if you go into government in the next few months, the special criminal courts will stay, and you'll be looking for reform. You're now saying reform as opposed to scrapping it. You're still not answering the question about when it actually changed. The policy document, it changed.
We will go to the polls next Saturday. We will ask the public to give us their support. We will go in and we will try and negotiate a programme for government that we feel reflects what we've set out in our manifesto. What we'll do is we'll try to negotiate change, because I believe people want change. I think that the public very much are saying to us on the doors, bring about change. They're tired of the old policies of Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. They want us to get in there. So our job will be to negotiate a programme for government, Republican politics, and then deliver that to the people, because that's what they deserve.
And the question I'm asking you is, what position do you have for those that say that Sinn Fein have diluted their policies too much just to try to get elected? Because this effectively is what some people would say regarding this matter on the Special Criminal Court. Because for years, for decades, the Special Criminal Court has been the bane of Republicans' lives. Non-jury courts, horrendous types of justice, say Republicans over the years. Mm-hmm. So, again, is it just you trying to make yourselves more applicable to voters?
No, because we're not dishonest with the public and never will be. I think we'll have to be very straight with people. I think what David was reflecting was the fact that we need to deal with these criminal gangs that are on the ground, that are actually causing mayhem in their communities, and I think that David was reflecting how we need to deal with that situation. Yes, we have issue with criminal court. There is no doubt about it. That is the party position. But I think David was very clear on the record about responding to the situation that we have there. Now, whilst other parties might be dishonest just to get votes, that is not the Sinn Féin way. That is not the Republican way. We'll be very honest with people. We'll go out, we'll make our case with the public. They will decide themselves whenever they vote. But we have a job to do after this election. If the people give us the support, and we're very grateful and hopeful that they will, if the people give us support, we'll be going in to negotiate a strong Republican programme for government.
OK, I won't go on about it because, again, maybe we don't know the exact details when it happened or how it happened. I also want to ask you, has a decision been made, or will you be holding a special Ardèche after the election if there is a chance of going into government with Fianna Fáil or Fine Gael? Now, I predict you're going to give the answer of we're standing on our own platform, blah, blah, blah. The question is, would there be a special Ardèche if there is a chance of going into coalition with Fianna Fáil or Fine Gael?
Well, as you would expect, I would say yes, we are standing on our own platform. And then once we get to the other side of the election, polling day itself, based on what we have, then yes, if we were going to make a decision to go into government with anybody, then we would have to go to a special Ardèche. That is the party position. So, but I think, I suppose you can't jump too many steps ahead. First step is obviously to get elected, to win the maximum number of seats, to make sure we get the support of the public. I'm certainly picking up a very strong attitude. We don't get distracted by opinion polls and what have you, because the real opinion poll will be on election day. So we have a job of work to do for the next 6 days, what's left in this campaign, to convince the public to vote for Sinn Féin. And on the other side of that, then we seek that mandate to actually make change. So we seek that mandate to be in government, because Sinn Féin's objective is to be in government north and south. I think it's interesting whenever you listen to the likes of the Fine Gaels and the Fianna Fáil positions around this. I mean, you have to ask yourself why they're ruling out going into government with Sinn Féin, or why they're saying what they're saying. They're saying it because they're afraid. They're saying it because they think they have a sense of entitlement. They're saying it because they want to keep things remain, I suppose, the status quo. We want to bring about change. We have something better to offer the public. Not only do we want to be in government, we want to deliver better politics. We believe we have the solutions to the crisis which this government, supported by Fianna Fáil, have brought onto the lives of people. Like, people are worse off today as a result of this government. Sinn Féin can bring about changes about that.
The Fianna Fáil election manifesto in the 1932 general election was very radical. Fianna Fáil were coming out of a civil war, coming out of a Republican struggle, coming out of death, coming out of squalor and poverty. And a lot of the things in that manifesto is very similar to what Sinn Féin have been espousing in the last 10 years. Very similar in some respects. In other words, are ye just mini Fianna Fáil?
Jeez, God forbid. I think that what we offer is a lot distinct, much distinct, I think, from what Fianna Fáil offer.
Only 80 years apart.
We stand on our own track record. We stand on what we have done. We stand on what we've said we'll do, and we'll stand over every word and every promise that we've made to the electorate. And I think that for me, certainly, this election is so interesting. I mean, I said to you, I reflected just the mood of the people in Waterford that I've detected here this morning. People are tired. People want change, and I think that they know that they're not being given a break. Workers and families aren't being given a break. Sinn Fein have the solutions to actually do things about housing, about the rent situation, about all the things that are important to people's lives and make a difference every day. The sense of entitlement of Fianna Fáil or Fine Gael is actually it's actually so arrogant. I think it's incredible to watch.
But Fianna Fáil have come from a Republican tradition, like yourselves, as distinct to, I suppose, the Fine Gael tradition.
Yeah, but their policies are still rotten. I mean, I think what Fianna Fáil have done in terms of propping up Fine Gael in delivering the mayhem which they have delivered over the course of recent years, I mean, I don't think that's a good track record to speak on. But look, I can't speak for them. I can only speak for what Sinn Fein can do. And certainly I am determined, we are determined collectively to be in government. We want the public support to go in there and actually change things. And I believe that we have the solutions to the problems that we have in society today as a direct result of Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil policies. And I think that whenever the
so you're not just a new Fianna Fáil or anything like that.
God forbid. Sinn Fein are a distinct brand, and I think that what we offer the public is that we work on the side of the ordinary person. I mean, we want to deliver good policies in terms of health and housing. We want to tackle the health crisis. We want to be able to go in and actually do something positive and deliver right into the pockets of families who are struggling with childcare, families who are struggling, running around trying to make ends meet. And people are worse off as a result of this government that we're now hopefully going to change.
What about some people that are out there that may want to vote for you, may want to vote for change, but they have still this contradictory view because of what happened in the past, because of the connection with the Republican movement, because of the connections with the IRA in the past? And somebody could be related to a guard who was shot. It could be anything. Like, what have you got to say to them?
Well, I would say this. I mean, we are a society that's still coming out of conflict. We're still in the early days of a peace process, 21 years after the Good Friday Agreement was signed. I, as a Republican leader, have spent all of my adult life about bringing about the peace. And to me, we as a society have an awful big job of work to do in order to be able to heal the wounds of the past, because a lot of people were hurt throughout the course of the conflict. So I think that as political leaders, we have a job to do, not to try to score points off each other or to be opportunistic about something, but also to genuinely try to bring about peace, to bed in the peace, to continue to bed in the peace, but also to heal the wounds of those people that have been hurt down through the years. And as I say, there are many. For people to forgive maybe as well? All of those things I think are really, really important to understand each other, to understand people's hurt and pain, but also to try and build something better for the future, to make sure that we never find ourselves in a situation where that could happen again. So that's my determination as a Republican leader. I want to build a better Ireland. I want to bring about, obviously, the unity of this country as we approach the anniversary of partition. Partition has failed, and Brexit is case in point as to how the people of the North are being dragged out of the EU against our wishes because of the island being partitioned. The British government have the ability to do that to us. Why didn't you run two candidates in Waterford? Well, the votes aren't counted yet, so let's focus on getting David Cullinane elected. That's what we're determined to do. Did you consider it? Everything is always considered. Of course you do, but I think that until the public vote next week, I think it's too early to say whether or not we should have or shouldn't have run a second candidate. Michelle O'Neill, thank you very much. Thank you. Now, keep in touch with the programme. We're going to be talking in a second to Elaine Walsh from Dunhill regarding the childcare strike. Some of the texts that come in are great. I love these texts. Some people saying, Damien, your bigotry on Sinn Fein is there for all to see. You attack Sinn Fein politicians. Why don't you attack Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil politicians the same? Like, that's just ridiculous. Ridiculous. I attack or investigate or ask questions to all politicians in different ways. And as we said earlier with the 12 with Tiernan, that's a way of people to putting their views across. Some people saying that there are, Damien, you're gone soft on Sinn Fein, so you can't win, it's just really ridiculous, amazing. Keep your texts and comments coming in though. I like to get them, and I'll take any criticism, any comments people have on the chin. People saying they like to hear Michelle O'Neill there, others saying that they certainly won't be voting for Sinn Fein, they're going to Australia if that happens, others saying that they will be voting for Sinn Fein.
Other people talking then still about the issue of sulky racing. I saw a 3-year-old on a sulky one day, barely holding on, no helmet. Damien, livid with the poor animals, the pictures. If we ran off from the scene of an accident, we would be brought to book very, very fast. Something has to be done about this. Damien, I was driving on the airport road with my 2 young children when 3 sulkies were racing 3 abreast on the road and a jeep flying behind them. It was a really fast race going on in front of me. They'd no regard to other road users. I actually had to drive onto the grass margin to get out of the way. Absolutely shocking. The poor horse fell, says this texter, in this particular incident. And poor horse fell. And they bet it up. They actually bet the horse and raced on. Like, this is not right. Not right at all. Elaine Walsh, good morning.
Hi, Damien. How are you?
Good, thank you. Elaine Walsh, there's going to be a childcare strike on Wednesday. Is that right?
That's right. There's going to be a protest starting in Parnell Square at about 11:30, and we're going to march to the Dole.
OK. And tell me, you are with Andina Beag in Dunhill. What do you have out there? Is it a childcare centre itself?
Yeah, we have a Montessori school here, and before and after school we cater for preschool children and school-going age children. OK. So what's going to happen? Will people literally have no childcare on Wednesday? Yeah, unfortunately, that's the situation, Damien. But, this is long overdue at this stage. Everybody's just really, really tired of the whole situation, and really the insurance crisis for the sector is the straw that has broken the camel's back. So we're taking action. There are multiple reasons. The main reasons being that it's pure lack of government investment in the sector. The government has not taken responsibility for the ECC sector, the way that it does for the primary or secondary education. ECCE is the first step on the education ladder for all children. We all know that the most formative years are between 0 to 6. And ECC is critical, and the current funding model is just not working. And yet, at the same time, the situation would be the government says they gave you all a bit of money there just after Christmas. Yeah, look, the fact of the matter is, Damien, that, the DCYA are coming out and saying they've invested so much million into the EC sector. It actually doesn't come straight to the providers. It is probably going into TUSLA for the governance. It could be going to the Department of Education for the governance, which is a real big issue for us within the sector. We are cross-governed by 3 different departments. We need a streamlined inspection process, because they can actually more than often conflict with one another with the governance issues. So we're left in the middle, confused. But the funding does not directly come to the providers. The funding model for the EC sector is absolutely broken. We are funded for 3 hours a day. And in that 3 hours, staff are expected to love, nurture and educate children, watch out for signs of developmental delays, issues, signs of abuse, support families, liaise with speech and language therapists, OTs, educational psychologists, and then we're supposed to fill out all the admin paperwork that goes with it. That cannot be done in 3 hours, Damien. It is absolutely crazy to expect people to be able to do that. We don't get paid for non-contact time. So any of those, I could be sitting up some morning, as many providers in my situation, you could be doing a letter for a speech and language therapist, an OT, educational psychologist reports are 12 to 14 page long forms. And we are all doing that on our own time. We're having parent-teacher meetings. Some of us do home visits, and we don't get paid for any of our non-contact time. Our staff, I have to say, I have a brilliant team of staff with me. I am utterly destroyed that I can't pay them more than what I pay them. They do such a good job, and they just take care of the children and the families. But the money is not there. We are not being given the money to pay them adequately.
OK. Listen, we'll see how it goes, because obviously there's going to be a lot of people discommoded on Wednesday as well. I presume you want to apologise to them for this, because there may be people that will have to take a day off work to mind their children because they won't be able to put their children into a creche.
Look, absolutely, Damien, and we have given out a letter. There is 11 services within the Tramore, Dunhill and Fenner area that we collectively got together and set out a letter and gave it to the guardians and parents of the children attending our services. We wish we didn't have to do this, but we are not meaningfully consulted by the government. They're not listening to us. So this is the last thing that we wanted to do, but we have to do it. But I have to say, Damien, that all of us, every one of the providers that gave out those letters, have absolutely fabulous support from the parents and families of the children that attend our services. They are offering to come and help us protest. They are signing petitions. They are doing poster and picture campaigns with us. They really value what we do for them.
Okay, well listen...
So we are really, really thankful for that.
Okay, Elaine, thanks for joining us this morning. Appreciate it.
Not at all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Elaine. Elaine Walsh there from Andina Beag and Dunhill on the childcare strike on Wednesday. Let us know what you think about it. Is this something that you would be supporting as a parent? Is it something going to be a really big inconvenience? Also, TUI members at WIT are due to strike tomorrow, which is going to affect classes. We've just been texted in about this. Also, a lorry has shed its load on the N9, N25 roundabout at Granny, just off the M9. So there may be delays out there. At least half of the country's 700 plus secondary schools are set to shut tomorrow. I know some schools will be open. People still texting in about the rubbish collection, about all the issues there with that. Damien, there's 16 ESB pole lights on the bridge in Lismore not working with 5 weeks. Please try and get something done about this, says John in Lismore. Other people texting in still about the sulky issues. Councillor Joe Kelly says there aren't national laws against sulkies. We can bring in bylaws, but Waterford Council are well prepared to ban it, but legally we can't, says Joe. So there has to be a national law, says Joe. Coming up, we're going to talk about the snip. Now, some texts and comments. Damien, the Fianna Fáil campaign is taking up mostly about whinging about Sinn Fein. Both Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael have been the main parties in government for decades. As arrogance, lack of accountability, waste of taxpayers' money. That is in from Ed. A caller says Elaine forgot to mention that even though Evan all in jobs for 17 to 18 years, they still have to go on the dole for their holidays, Christmas, etc. Keep your texts and comments coming in. Dr. Fergus McNamara, a doctor here in Waterford City. This is about vasectomies and about the fact that the annual budget for vasectomies for those that are on medical cards in Waterford has spent already, and we're only 1 month gone. Dr. Gus McNamara, how are you?
How are things?
Good, thanks. Yourself, how are you?
Excellent. Now, thanks for having us on.
Not at all, not at all. Tell me a little bit about yourself, please.
I suppose I'm a GP up in Ballybricken, inside in the city. I've been working there for 7 years. Before I did GP, I did the training scheme, the surgical training scheme, and did my memberships. And then I decided I'd not go for the hospital option and changed over to going to GP.
Very good.
Took some of the skills with me.
So you're practising how many years?
Well, I suppose probably fully qualified GP the last 10 years, but in Waterford for the last 7.
You're in to talk to us this morning a little bit about vasectomies, is that it?
Yeah.
Tell me, what is the situation?
The thing is, the vasectomies, it's been moved out of hospital medicine now, and it's really a GP-based service. Certain GPs have more training in it and have decided that they'd offer the service. The trouble is that the GMS, the health HSE, is not really plugged into that, and they've really limited the budget. So they're really only providing for 30 patients a year.
Okay.
And that,
before we go into the actual figures itself, explain to our listeners, what is a vasectomy? How long does it take? Tell me a little bit about the procedure.
I suppose vasectomy is it's the only male form of contraception. So it's a procedure. Takes really, the actual procedure time is only between 10 and 15 minutes, but you're in with us for about an hour.
I know, because I've had it done.
Oh, very good. Okay.
So it's colloquially known as the snip.
The snip.
The snip.
That's it.
And it's not, people say the snip and they go, oh God, and some men will recoil and they'll say, I can't do that. It's actually completely and utterly painless. It's so easy. It's such a simple thing to do. And you're literally in for an hour, you get a little bit of Valium. What happens?
That's it. I mean, it's actually really uncomplicated. It's an easy procedure. I mean, in a sense, if you're sure your family's complete, it's pretty much a no-brainer, because there's no hormones, there's nothing. It's a mechanical process. But what you do is, I usually meet people for about half an hour chat beforehand. We try and meet the couple as well, maybe go through any of their fears or any of that sort of stuff, kind of dispel any myths that go with it, and also to let them know what they're going in for. That probably takes, as I said, half an hour. You're kind of telling them that, look, this is a permanent procedure. You have to be sure your family is complete, but you're also reassuring them that, as you said, it's an easy one.
There is a possibility of getting it reversed. It's quite a difficult operation and may not be successful.
I think that's the thing, is that like the reversal is quite, the rate of success is quite poor. So while they'll quote figures of maybe 1 in 5, you have to think of the 4 out of those 5 who've tried it and didn't get there, and their heartbreak. And then you have to think of, that's 1 in 5 is the best centres in the world. The average is actually 1 in 40 get a live birth afterwards. So it's pretty poor. Now the thing is, it does depend. There's a lot of variation. You know, if how long has it been since you've had your vasectomy and your age when you had the vasectomy and that.
And the man stays awake while it's on, so it's a local anaesthetic.
Oh yeah.
And it's a very simple procedure. And literally, you're cutting 2 little holes either side of the top of the groin.
That's it.
Taking out the vein. Is that correct?
It's the vase. So the vase is just a tube. It's like a conduit, just like a piece of hose pipe going between the testicle and out to the urethra, so that you can pass it out. We can now do it with just one hole, and very, very small, smaller than a pen actually, and you can remove the tube. We cut it in 2 places so that you remove a section of the tube out, and then we seal both ends with an electrocoagulator, which is like a very fancy soldering iron.
It's advanced since I had it done 15 years ago. That's a good sign.
Anyway, yeah.
And it's the only time I think a doctor, I don't know if you do this, but I remember when I got it done in Wexford, the doctor says, this is the only time a doctor is going to tell you to go home, lie on the couch and maybe drink a few beers for 24 hours.
Take it easy, that's right.
Take it easy.
Yeah. And you get a bag of peas as well to keep the area cool, and that's about what you're looking at, yeah.
And there's no real pain. What happens is, from a medical procedure, your penis may change colour, and your testicles may change colour.
Yeah, you can get a small bit of bruising after the procedure. That's the colour change. But generally speaking, with the new procedure, really unlikely. I mean, most people find that there's a small spike in pain about 12 hours afterwards. It's not extremely sharp. It's just a kind of a dull ache. You just be aware you had a procedure done. And then it eases off fairly quickly. You don't need to take a week off work for this procedure, definitely not. What you're looking at is maybe do it on a Friday evening and you'd be ready to go back to work and do everything as normal by Monday. You know?
Yeah, I know you can't drive home if you've taken Valium on your own.
That's right, but if you haven't, I mean, I suppose I've started to steer away because the procedure is so quick. People, you can tell if they're very nervous on the day, the scrotum is very tight, you know, the eyes are very fixed. You'd be saying, look, I think we'll give you a little bit of Valium here to relax you. But I'd say in the last 60 patients, I haven't used anything like that, because patients do like the option of driving home themselves.
Yeah, I can testify, no pain whatsoever, recovery 24 hours. It was absolutely brilliant, just great.
Oh yeah, I mean,
for any men that out there that are considering it, it's certainly worth talking to your GP about.
I mean, the awareness, you'll find that there might be an awareness of the scrotum for up to a week afterwards, but it's certainly not a pain. And I have loads of people who do triathlons and who would be doing a lot of heavy gym work and that, and they have no problem at all going back to the gym after 3 to 4 days.
Yeah, and from what we understand in terms of the research, with tens of thousands of people that have had it, no consequences or no side effects regarding sexual activity or anything like that whatsoever.
But that's one of the things I go through in the counselling, to make sure people are well aware. Like, this will not change your libido at all. It won't change the sensation or during intercourse or anything at all. All it does is it stops the actual sperm coming out in the ejaculate. And I think that's the important thing, is that people think the whole lot, when you ejaculate, everything is made in the testicle, whereas most of it is made in the prostate gland. The testicle actually only makes the sperm itself, so you're looking at maybe 1 to 5% of your ejaculate being made up of the sperm, and when we do the vasectomy, that the sperm wouldn't be there, so it would mean that you'd be down that 5%, but you wouldn't notice that.
Yeah, and you're still ejaculating. In terms of how much does it normally cost? If you go in as a normal patient, what's the normal cost?
I suppose €540 is the cost, but that covers everything from the initial consultation. We do the procedure then as well, and then obviously there's the aftercare, which you come back in a week later and we remove the little stitch that we put in and we check everything is right and make sure that you're aware of how to follow up afterwards. And that's the big thing with the vasectomy, is that you're not fully infertile straight away after you've had the procedure.
Correct.
You do need the reassurance of a sample sent to the lab 12 weeks afterwards.
Just to be sure, to be sure. It's like where the Irishman wore 2 condoms, to be sure, to be sure. And in terms of the issues that we're talking about here this this morning, do these relate to patients or people that are on medical cards or on different systems, or tell us about the payment systems?
The difficulty at the moment is that the HSE are really only covering 30 vasectomies in the southeast.
30?
30 people. 30. And it's...
What do you mean covering them?
They pay for that.
Okay. But why would they pay for them? Are these people that would be on medical cards?
If you have a medical card,
okay.
Yes. So only patients with a full medical card, not patients with a doctor visit card. So it's a separate contract, and the funding for it is really abysmally small. The demand is out there to the point that I've actually finished now for the year. It's totally finished, the funding.
So we're now at the first week in February.
Yeah.
You have exhausted your entire supply of patients that can come under this scheme that will get it for free.
Exactly.
30.
And
wow.
They're all done, and last year was the same. They were both by the 27th of January last year and the 27th of January this year. The entire 30 patients were all done.
So if anybody's on a medical card and is looking to get a vasectomy done, what can they do now?
They can come in for a chat, and they'll have to wait for 11 months before they can get their one. And it's a totally artificial waiting list, because vasectomists in Waterford are ready to go. They just don't have any funding to go. So it is a tricky. It's a difficult.
There must be a lot of people waiting.
There would be. Yeah. I mean, I suppose the majority of the people. That's why January is such a busy time for us, is because everybody from February on is in a queue essentially, and they come in then in January and they get their vasectomy done, and that means that the people then who did want it for 2020 have to wait till 2021.
Well, how does it work in other regions? Does Limerick, for example, have a bigger number of...
Limerick's a good example. Limerick has twice the budget, and it has the population cohort of Limerick is actually less than ours, and they've got more funding. So their HSE area, I think they're HSE area 3 and we're 4. I'm not 100% sure on that. Yeah, they're area 3, and they've got twice the budget, and they've got a population of 400,000, and we've got half the budget, and we have a population of 500,000 in our area.
So anybody who would be under the HSE scheme potentially would be coming to ye as you're the designated, I suppose, providers of this service under that scheme.
Yeah, there are two. I think there's 2 or 3 others around as well who do it. There's only 3 or 4 in this service.
And doctors in different areas do it privately, but we're talking about medical card holders on this. Firstly, how does it make you feel as a GP when we hear about the HSE talking about sexual health, talking about general health, and all the things that go with that, and in practice, this is what happens?
Yeah, I think this is the big problem, is that you've got all this focus on sexual health, and you've got a large focus on the female aspect of that as well, but it's all being left with the women to the basic contraception is left as in the female domain, unless vasectomy is pushed to the forefront again, and it just hasn't been. It's been left in the background by the HSE,
because this, like a condom is the only other male form of contraception, effectively, and the vasectomy is the safer one.
Yeah. Well, to give you a figure, I mean, in theory, a condom, the failure rate with condoms alone is about 8%. The failure rate with vasectomy is about 1 in 2,000 lifetimes.
Wow.
So it's a totally different game,
Yeah. Secondly, in terms of a regional perspective, do you feel it wrong that the Southeast is not getting its fair share?
Well, it's unfair for patients. I mean, the thing is that there's inequality. Like, everybody in Ireland is meant to be under the same umbrella, and some people are getting greater access to service than others. And I don't know. Like, this is the one area that I've seen, but I'm just wondering about all the other areas as well.
Is there any chance that the cost can come down? Like, some people might say it's a little bit expensive, more than €500 for a vasectomy.
It is. It gives you a lifetime worth of contraception. It's about the same price as taking the pill for an entire year, and this is a once-off expense. The other thing is that the insurance to do the surgery has always been ramping up, and that's a difficult one, because there's different options with insurance, but if you start to do medical procedures, you'll end up having to pay much higher medical insurance.
Is there any chance that the HSE will change or will give more money to this? Like, can they do a supplementary budget now for the rest of the year?
Well, I've written to them the 3 or 4 individuals in the HSE I write to every year when the budget runs out, and I give them all the details, and they get back kind of with the "we'll keep it in mind" and "you've got a fair point" is what I hear.
It's just not good enough.
Well, it isn't really, but hopefully we'll just raise a bit of awareness and get this this corrected.
Well, we're emailing the HSE about this and see what response they come up with, because it sounds, it's just not good enough. It's not an awful lot of money.
No. And it's great to give people an option, because a lot of couples don't have the option. You know, they don't have the choice because they may be hormone sensitive, or they may find that they just don't want to go down the route of having a coil or an implant on, and they're looking for kind of ironclad contraception. They don't want a crisis pregnancy, and if you're looking for, there's no better way than the vasectomy, really,
because it takes the pressure off the woman.
Absolutely.
And it's a simple thing to do, and it works, and it's safe. And Dr. Gus McNamara, thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
We'll have to snip this conversation now. Sorry.
Thanks a million.
Just have to say. Sorry. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Now, some texts and comments coming in still. Other people saying Sinn Fein are great. Other people giving out about Sinn Fein. Michael phoned in to say Sinn Fein aren't worth going across the road for. Other people talking about the conversation regarding the snip, and some questions on that. Regarding animal welfare issues, Ger in the city phoned in to say, get our PC heads out of the sand. Too many eggshells regarding travellers and animal welfare, and total nonsense. And John Herald calling for a ban on sulky racing and transferring the problem to a racetrack. If you've no respect for animals, then you shouldn't be allowed to have animals. Simple as that. Please read out this text, says Ger. And I did. Now we are going to have a chat with Karen. Good morning, Karen.
Morning, Damien.
Thanks very much for joining us. We've promised to have a quick chat about the politics around the region, and we're talking about Wexford for the next 5 minutes. We've only got 5 minutes because we had such a packed show. What's the chances of Fianna Fáil getting 2 seats in Wexford?
At the moment, there is a lot of talk about that. Exactly. James Brown, of course, Wexford TD. The talk is that his seat is safe, and it's a very strong name in Wexford, the Brown name. Yeah. But then Wexford's unusual. It's giving a good kind of idea of what's to come, because don't forget, Wexford had a by-election back in November. So unlike Waterford and most other counties, if you were to judge on the results of the by-election alone, of course, Malcolm Byrne, Fianna Fáil candidate, was elected. He got 31% first preference vote. So he, is expected to perform really well. And there are currently 2 Fine Gael seats, of course, in Wexford, Michael Darcy and Paul Keogh. And the feeling is that they won't retain the 2.
OK, so that national swing against Fine Gael that may become apparent, and then Verona Murphy.
Well, you see, this is really interesting. I think Wexford's actually a very exciting county for this election, because, of course, Verona was ceremoniously dropped by Fine Gael, but, of course, she had garnered a lot of support. Obviously, Michael Darcy and Paul Keogh were backing her then. She was dropped, but, she still holds South Wexford, New Ross, rural Wexford, and probably a protest vote as well. So she is going to be really strong, and I think one to watch. But, of course, don't forget, in South Wexford, you have Michael Sheehan. And Fianna Fáil did an interesting thing. They're running 4 candidates in Wexford. And, of course, the female candidate, and I shouldn't say the female candidate, the other 4th candidate in Wexford as well is Lisa MacDonald. So here you have 4 of them going strong. I mean, whose it is in the south of Wexford is anybody's guess.
Yeah, like Brendan Howlin, they say will get in, so he's going to be there. Yeah. And then it's a shoe-in then. There's going to be 1 Fine Gael, 1 Fianna Fáil at least, and then maybe another Fine Gael or Fianna Fáil, and possibly Verona Murphy. So the reason we're covering this is a lot of people in South Wexford going up to New Ross listen to the programme. So she is the unknown.
She's the unknown. I think the 2 females here, Verona Murphy and Lisa MacDonald. And I mean, Lisa MacDonald came out very strongly anti-party, actually, when she was taken off the ticket for the by-election. Right, and, she was really angry at the time, and people wondered, was she going to leave? Was she just going to go independent? She's still on the Fianna Fáil ticket, but she kind of famously said it's very male, very stale and outside the pale. And, there was
Hugh Byrne, I know, was working behind the scenes with her as well, the former minister.
Yeah, so she has strong connections, and, she is one to watch. And I think like a lot of people are focusing on Malcolm Byrne because obviously he was the by-election success. But I think she's one to watch as well as Verona Murphy, and kind of similar areas that they're covering as well in Wexford.
Sinn Fein, Johnny Mythen, he's been there before. Yeah. He's not picking up the traction we understand as he had. But again, if there's going to be a Sinn Fein surge, he can't be ruled out.
No, because he lost a seat at the local elections. But I think Sinn Fein nationally at that time, it was May 2019. Things have really changed. He actually fared, since then it's expected that I don't know, Damien. I'm not sure if there's enough, if he'll pick it up enough to actually get a seat, but he's definitely one that'll do well out of it.
Yeah, and one of the reasons it's important as well, that Wexford normally gets a minister, and if there's a split in the vote, and if it doesn't get enough 2 votes for each candidate, they may not get a minister, which might allow Waterford to get a minister.
This is where it becomes really interesting, isn't it? And this is where, when we hear about the surge in Fianna Fáil and Sinn Féin, it kind of, I won't say it dilutes the chances for Wexford. Well, it does essentially, I suppose, and maybe that's Waterford's gain as well. So we don't know.
Stick your neck out, call it.
OK, right. I think that Michael Darcy for Fine Gael is going to be safe. I really do. I think Brendan Howlin, is in Wexford is safe. I'm going to say Verona Murphy's going to get over the line. And my feeling is that both Malcolm Byrne and James Brown for Fianna Fáil will get in there.
Karen, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You're back on the air on the news in around 3.5 minutes.
Gotta run.
Gotta run.